Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well, and welcome to this night-ending bonus. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon. And folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, folks, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to this night-ending bonus upload, shall we? All right, folks, I figure, hey, let's end this night with an interview that I had done with a near and dear friend, a person that not only did I look up to when I started this channel, but he has been here for me the entire time. He really helped me with coming to terms with my spirituality and turning my life over to Jesus Christ, our Savior. Just a really authentic person. And, you know, sometimes I've seen people, oh, I don't like this guy. I don't like this guy. It is because they don't know him. I'm certain that if anyone has any kind of disdain or dislike for Dark Waters, if you got to meet him and talk with him, it would instantly change your mind. The man has always been here for me and has never, ever asked for anything in return except friendship and respect. And that's what we have, is a mutual friendship and respect. Let's get into this amazing interview. Dark Waters is on the show right now. Dark, how are you today?
I'm hanging in there. What's happening with you, baby? You been all right?
I've been good. I've been good. You know, like, we had a talk a couple of months ago, and since then I've just nailed it down and kept going, head up, and that's the best way you can do it. So, I've got a couple of ways that I want to do this. I kind of want to do an interview, but kind of just two guys bullshitting. So, the first thing I really want to ask is, what got you into cryptozoology and the field that we are both in?
Me being stupid as hell is what got me into it. So anybody who's been around a while, you can go back and find where, you know, I was talking trash, like, you know, I knew there was a Bigfoot and stuff like that. But it started with Dogman. I was like, man, ain't no such thing as a Dogman. And so I freaking went out to try and go to Taylor, Mississippi, where there's, insane Dogman activity to this day. And I ended up getting left on the side of the road by myself after dark with these things kind of running down on me. And I had my own Dogman encounter, just being stupid. Honestly, that was just the dumbest crap I've ever did. And I would never do anything like that again. And so from there, I went through the process of trying to really figure out what those creatures were. And then once your context expands, and I tell people this all the time, like, don't go looking for things like Dogman, Bigfoot, the faceless man, because once your brain changes and realizes that something like that is real, there's no box for you to compartmentalize and put it in mentally. So you have to create a box and create some kind of rationale and create something to put that experience in, or else it'll drive you crazy. So then I really dive deep into kind of Dogman and cryptids and everything else, and finally get to a point where I have a greater understanding of it. and now I'm comfortable with the subject, but it was just pure stupidity that pretty much put me in that situation. I mean, that was just dumb. Like, I tell people all the time, that was the dumbest thing and I've done a lot of dumb stuff in my lifetime, man. That was just dumb. I've done a lot of stupid stuff.
All right.
That was just stupid.
Now, you are probably known as, well, in my eyes, and I know a lot of people view you as a very talented storyteller. One of the best stories that I have ever heard is the siege at Locket Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been to the ranch yourself?
No, there's no way you can go to that ranch at this point in time. Just to give you the backstory about that whole thing, the same time period where I was in Taylor, Mississippi, the gentleman who I actually went up there with was a guy named Skip. This time frame is when I started learning about the historical background of Taylor and that about 100-mile radius area around there, because most people think all the Dogman activity happens in Taylor. It's actually about 100 to 150-mile radius around that area where that activity is. And Skip was the one that introduced me to the family members that had that story and had that encounter. And it took a lot for me to really get them to trust me, because I'm a black guy going to North Mississippi and asking people to talk to me about something that happened in their family and that stories that have been passed down through their bloodline. And they're like, well, why should we tell you this story? You know, why should we share it with you? You know, you're going to embarrass us. You're going to make us look stupid. So it took a lot for me to get that story and finally get it out to the public. And I did. And then after I did it, I regretted it, because people started going there and doing stupid stuff, trying to track them down. And so to this day, I've been very, very guarded about that information when it comes to that family, because of the fact that we have NDAs signed and all kind of other stuff signed that literally could get me in a bit of financial trouble. But just so you'll know, if someone's told you they went to Locket Ranch, that's not possible. Locket Ranch is underneath the lake right now. It's not possible for them to do that. So if someone's out there on the internet, yeah, I went back to Locket Ranch, like, you a lying SOB. It's not possible. It's not possible. But you have to understand the history of that area to know exactly where that land is located and why that land was taken over by the government and a whole bunch of stuff that happened in that area.
Okay. All right. And another one of your greatest stories, Dogman Island. Everybody, I mean, I've spoken to a gentleman who I interviewed, BD. He lives in Louisiana as well. And he honestly it was 100% sure that island is full of Dogman and somewhere in the bayou. Is that anything that you've been close to or not, or just you?
Oh, hell no.
Okay.
I'm not gonna, no. I would never. This is the one thing you can know right now. I'm not going at the mine counter. I'm not going anywhere near those things. Now, if it's somebody I love and I really care about, I'll go pick them up from that area, but the car is going to be rolling. They're going to need to run and jump in the car. I'm not messing around. But what I can tell you is the way those stories came about and the way I got that information is kind of exactly what I started doing more of recently. And I've given out kind of my secrets. Back then, I was literally marketing to newspapers and different areas, in small town areas for various encounters. So you take a small town newspaper and you tell them, look, I'm gonna pay you $500 to have an ad in your paper the whole year. They don't make any money. They're gonna run that ad, right? They'll give you a full page ad. So I was marketing and getting stories, and then eventually I started getting kind of the people was like, oh, you're fake and you're fraud, and I don't really believe what you're saying. And another guy down in Homer had told me about the island. I was like, okay, well, cool, It's all good. And so I ended up talking to one of those jackasses, pardon my language, that was challenging me like I'm lying. I said, okay, wait, here's the area. Go down there and ask around and somebody will tell you. And so he's like, no, I'm going to go. And that guy actually went there and found the location and went and had a horrific encounter. But his encounter from that story wasn't the very first one. There was a couple of more that people shared with me. I just haven't shared those stories because I hold on to a lot of stuff because there's really not that many Dogman encounters that people have. Period. Like now, I'm literally generating Dogman encounters because I'm giving people the coordinates and they're crazy enough to go there. So I think one of the biggest misconceptions that people have when it comes to Dogman is that somebody's seeing them every day. That's not happening, bro.
Right.
Like you gotta be in the right area. Like the coordinates I put out recently, you go there, I can guarantee you're gonna run into something. It may not be Dogman, it may be Bigfoot, it may be a bunch of witches sacrificing some chickens or dogs in the woods. You're gonna run into something. Because those are extremely active areas. So I guess to answer your question, I did not go there. I don't plan on going there, and you won't find me going there. Like right now, I sit on a board of a new startup company that has to do with Dogman, and they want to pay me money to go do something in the area where Dogman is. It's been a month, and I still ain't did it. And they're like, man, when you going to take care of the business? I'm like, dude, I need to send some people down here with me. I need about 9 people. I'll take them there, but I need about 9 people with me. I'm not just going over there by myself. You're crazy. Like, you're insane.
Right.
Because I know exactly where they are, like here locally. Like, I could literally, we could walk. No, we can't walk, but we could drive there, get out the car and walk, and we're going to find them. Yeah. If that's one of their areas.
Yep. Now, that's something that you just said, that coordinates and locations, really interests me because where I live in upstate New York, I am in between the city and Canada, and the Hudson Valley area. I think I forget her first name, but her last name is Zimmerman, and she's written about that Hudson Valley being full of Satanists, paranormal activity, Dogman, Sasquatch, you name it. And these locations exist, and a lot of people don't realize that there are certain locations all over our country that have some really fucked up shit going on there. And, you know, like you said, it's not a place that you want to go to. It's just insane. Another thing that you have a couple of stories about 2 guys, Steve and Roger. Are they your friends personally? Do you or did they just contact you one day and say, hey, this is what happened in Venezuela?
So the way that started is that was crazy. So they contact me out of the blue. Back in those days, I had my Dark Waters. So I would give out the kind of Dark Water cell phone number. And, you know, if I didn't want to talk to people, I would just turn it off and throw it in the drawer and turn it back on and check the messages or tell people to call me. Well, I get a call. This is right after I get a visit at my house on Robert Street, Uptown. I think I told the story. This is when I had the guy sitting outside in a white car. He sat there for a couple of days, and then I confronted him at the car, and he clearly was, I didn't scare him at all. Like, me having a weapon didn't bother this dude at all. Something was wrong with him. So he and I ended up having a couple of conversations, and that was in reference to the stuff that was going on in Taylor. And right after that, about 30 days after that, is when I got the first phone call from those guys. But it was on my regular phone, which nobody had that number except for maybe one person. Yeah, one person had that number, and he wouldn't have never given that number to anybody. And so they just reach out and say, hey, we have a series of stories we want to tell you, but we need to kind of look at your background and see a little bit more about you, but we want you to know about us, and we want you to tell these stories. And I was like, okay. And so we go through the process of talking, and they tell me the very first story. And that very first story was the one about them hunting Bigfoots in Alaska. And I was like, this is a whole bunch of bullshit, man. Like, I was straight up. I was like, yo, you calling me on my phone. I don't know how you got my number. This is a bunch of bullshit. Like, I don't even know what's wrong with y'all. And then he said, well, what would it take to prove that I am who I say I am? I said, okay, you say you're wealthy. You say you got this. I said, send me your financials for your two companies. I said, send me the financials that come from the audited financials that come from your accounting department, right? So I said, sure, no problem. And I'll send you some other stuff. Get off the phone. And I didn't give my address or nothing because I'm like, okay, if you Billy Badass, you should be able to find all this, right? Get off the phone. A couple of days pass. I do a series of interviews. Then I go out of town and I come back and I got this package literally outside the door, like a big old brown envelope. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Open it up. It's the financials. It's some photos of stuff that I burnt because I didn't want to have that in my possession. And we started from there really talking. And then it went through the process of understanding or them teaching me how to share information without sharing information, how to tell a story that they wanted me to tell without putting myself in jeopardy and risk. And then from there, it was story after story after story, great content, true stories, not made up stuff. And then I met one of the gentlemen who came in town one weekend, and we had an opportunity to smoke cigars and have drinks, and he was exactly what the hell he said he was. I mean, 100% exactly what he said he was. And then things spiraled out of control for them. I've said this a lot of times, and you're probably one of the only people who've ever dug into this. This particular series of stories, nobody even bothers to ask because they all assume it's false. Right. They assume it's like, oh, he made this up. Well, there are consequences for kind of being a truth teller, right? As a host with a microphone. There's a consequence for that, but then there's even more consequences for being kind of truth chasers and activists in the field of cryptids. And when you start playing on a global scale, getting involved in conflicts that it effectively really wasn't their business to get involved in. It was a lot more ego and pride that got them involved in it than needed to be. And then it just spiraled out of control for them. And now it's at a point where people are no longer here. People are in the hospital. One guy, his car blew up, and he's been in the hospital for 6 months. It's gotten really bad at this point in time. And it's gotten so bad. Like, I have 2 more stories from them that they're like, nah, don't tell them. You need to wait. Don't release those. You need to wait. And I'm like, well, it's done, and we don't want you to release them. And the agreement is I can't release anything without their approval. I'm not playing with them dudes like that. Right. I'm just not, like, if you tell me no, all right, no, it's fine with me. I'll move on to something else because they legit who they are and who they say they are. They were the ones that introduced me to the rest of the PMCs that I know that have been sharing stories with me. And so from that relationship spawned other relationships that they've been all really fruitful, real positive relationships and friendships. Like, people talking about, they worry about riots and this and that. I'm not worried about it. I got some badass friends that I can call. Yeah. But other people might need to worry,
Yeah, I know. When I said you and I had that conversation, that was in the heat of that time, and you were sitting back, and I think you were walking down to Louisiana going to get some cigars, and it was nuts. Those, like you said, a lot of people haven't talked about the Stephen Roger thing. They were my favorite. I mean, besides the Locket Ranch, I really enjoyed the Alaskan one, the Venezuela. I think it's a 3-part Venezuelan. And it's not just the story, it's the way you told the story. Have you always, and this is probably going to be a stupid question, but a lot of people don't realize that you can have the greatest story on earth. And if you don't have the cadence or the rhythm in your voice or the way you say it. Have you always been a natural storyteller all your life? Like just, get someone captivated?
Well, yeah, I perfected that, and I've told this before. I perfected that skill from lots of nights out drinking, picking up women, hanging out, and dealing with, like, in New Orleans, it's kind of crazy because, like, down here in the South, if you're a dark-skinned man back in those days, 10, 20 years ago, if you're a dark-skinned man, like, you didn't get the same play as a lighter-skinned black man. So if you were dark-skinned, you had to have the ability to communicate, even though you were just as tall, just as handsome, just that skin tone made a difference. So you had to develop the ability to communicate at such a high level to where you were able to take a person's attention and captivate it. So I would practice literally captivating audiences. There's a place here called the Foundation Room, and it's been remodeled and renovated. It's probably closed now because of freaking coronavirus. But in the Foundation Room, there was a stage, which was like, imagine you're in a bar room, and you can look it up on, in fact, if you Google House of Blues New Orleans Foundation Room, you'll see what I'm talking about. And there was a stage area where you kind of set up on a little stage, and it would seat about 10 to 12 people. And what we would do is we would sit in that room and invite women in, or people we knew or people we didn't know. And the whole thing is buy as much, wine or champagne as you wanted, and we would master the art of conversation. And then that art of conversation was applied to business and financing and everything else you needed to get. But it was us mastering the art of conversation. I just so happened to master it a lot more because then I had the training from being at the Department of Defense. I had the engineering background where you have to learn how to communicate. But I mastered it a little bit better than some other people. And then some people didn't need to because they came to women. They didn't need to master anything. You're 6'7" and look like Boris Kojo. You don't need shit. You just, hey girl, my name is Bob. And they're like, oh my God, Bob, you're so handsome. And you win. So I developed those skills from actually verbal hand-to-hand combat, like with people. You know what I'm saying? Whether it be an argument, whether it be trying to take somebody from somebody else, like a chick sit with another guy, but like, why are you sitting over there with him? Well, I just met him, blah, 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 blah. Well, you don't realize. To me, it's because he's drinking alcohol, but when you wake up in the morning, you have the worst breath in the world. And just blah, oh, you're funny. Yeah, that next thing you know, they sit with me, and then they leave with me, right? People are like, man, you son of a bitch, you took my chick. Oh, hey, man, they learn how to talk. So you develop those skills over the years, and so it transforms and it translates into storytelling extremely easy because, like, most people, like when you talk about narrators, they read a story to you, right?
Right.
So there's words written on a piece of paper and they read them. I don't read the story. I tell the story. So if you told me a story about your Dogman encounter, I'm going to memorize it. I'm not writing it down. But you're going to have to tell me 10, 15 times. And I'm going to memorize it. But then I'm going to tell it. When I turn on the microphone, there's nothing in front of me. And I literally have video of the last time I was in a studio doing this. And people was like, how in the hell did you just tell a 15-minute story with no piece of paper, no nothing? I was like, because I know the story because I talked to the dude for 2 weeks. And I tested his story for 2 weeks. So I turn on the microphone and I tell the story. And that's where the difference is. A narrator reads the story off a piece of paper, right? And it's like, today was Sunday and I went outside and I saw the moon was bright and decided to get in my car, and I remember the sound of the keys clinking in my pocket as I turned the wheel and blah, blah, blah. And that's why it sounds so dry.
Right.
Well, I'm just retelling what was told to me, and I'm retelling it exactly how it was told to me, and I capture all the emotion, all the energy, all of everything. That's why those stories like Siege of Like a Ranch and the Winged Ones and the freaking Alaskan Expedition, that's why they take so long, because there's literally nothing written down. And you know how long those stories are. So it's just me sitting there telling that story.
Right.
And so the reason why I'm able to paint the picture for you is because I have the picture in my head based on what was told to me. So I'm literally watching what was told to me happen while I tell it to you. And that's why the picture is clearly painted in the person's head, in their mind, when that story is unfolding. And then you add the music, you add everything else, and it comes, it's really awesome.
Yep.
And then I had one point in time where people was like, oh, you're reading the stories you're doing. And I'm like, dude, that's not what I do. And then one guy was like, well, one of the narrators was like, your stories are good because you do music. And I was like, no, it's the same whether I put music or not. So then I think I did the Stateline Mississippi. Oh my God. Whatever you do, don't go to Stateline Mississippi, bro. That stay the hell away from that place. They got like a portal to hell over there. But I did the Stateline Mississippi stories, and I just didn't do any music with them. I said, okay, people say I need music and it's scary because of music. So I just did them with no music, and they was like, man, that was scary. And you didn't even have music. I'm like, yeah, because I'm just telling you what happened to these two brothers. This is what happened to them.
Right.
This is the emotions that they had. So the key to telling a story is to tell it. And that's what people don't understand. They read the stories. They get some author to write something, or somebody sends them an email, and then they read the email. That's why I tell people, you email me a story, I'm not even reading it. Don't waste your time. I'm not reading it. If you're not willing to talk to me and tell me what happened and allow me to ask you questions and see if you're lying to me, man, don't even waste my time. I'm like, I don't even open them. And I've had people write like long stories. I'm like, oh man, I wish you wouldn't have wasted all this time. Delete.
Right.
Because I don't do it,
Yep. Now, something that you just mentioned, Stateline Mississippi, prior to that, I was going to ask you, because you had been to Taylor, Mississippi, and you said the 100-mile radius or whatever. What do you think is going on there? Like, why is that seemed to be such a hot spot for such a long time? I mean, we're not talking 10 years. We're talking 50, 60, 70 years.
Honestly, I think that it's partially due to the locations of the two lakes that are there in that vicinity. And then it's not very far from hopping onto the Appalachian Trail. You head on over to the right and up a little bit. You're right headed towards the Appalachian Trail. And then if you kind of follow, and I might just do this, I might just start putting out some more of the coordinates and put them on a map. I had done it in New Orleans, but I might just, if you follow a lot of the encounters and just track them coordinate-wise, you will actually find that you have encounters that come from South America through Texas, over through Louisiana literally to the border of Louisiana and Mississippi, and Texas, straight up, and they cut over, and then they start going through Mississippi and up through Tennessee. And you can literally see a migration pattern based on all of those encounters.
Yeah. Which
is why I never really gave the coordinates, because that's some of the most valuable information out there. And most people don't do that. They just, do an interview and hear a story, but they don't really get the actual location and plot it out. So I think that's a part of their migration pattern. I just think that in that area, there was a significant amount of game in that area. I don't know what's going on now because I haven't been there. Right. And I don't plan on going back there again. But I just think that's a part of one of their migration patterns. Okay. And I think that's why you've had that activity, because the activity is not always year round. There's times where it's increased and there's times where it's little to no activity. Right. But if for example, like what has happened in the past, if it's during the season where there's a lot of activity and somebody's out there doing something stupid like putting, Bigfoot calls or screaming in the woods, then they get a lot of freaking negative attention from those creatures. So long story short, I just think that's a part of the migration pattern, and it may be a resting point for them is what I've come to the conclusion of. Yeah. That might be a spot where they're just like, okay, we chilling here for a while and then we're going to move on. And I'm pretty sure that area, then there's another area in Kentucky that's definitely a resting spot, because and I haven't really told this because those people don't want that attention, and I learned my lesson from Taylor. Mm-hmm. there's families of people, like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 families of people that have Dogman activity in Kentucky, and it's insane activity. Like, just, I don't know. That's some weird, freaky stuff.
Right.
So I think they have kind of resting areas, kind of like their pit stops where they chill, hunt, relax, and then move on for a while.
That makes a lot of sense because I had a guest, Luke, from Taylor, Mississippi. His grandfather, it was generations, great-grandfather, grandfather, dad, him. He actually packed up and moved. And I've talked about the migration pattern. The thing that you just really hit the nail on the head for me and kind of opened my eyes a little bit more. I've been looking at a map and going down. I've been like coming from the East Coast, following the Appalachian Trail, going through and then cutting over into Texas and Oklahoma and then kind of leaving it blank there. But the way you just said it, coming from South America up, that's, that right there is thank you for just kind of opening my eyes right there on that one. Because I don't know why, I've just never thought about it. I'm more focused on North American, but yeah, they've got to come from somewhere. So thank you. I
have a friend of mine, I'll tell you a quick story. I'm not going to say it, but I have a friend of mine. I've known him for 20, what am I, 43, so I know him for 23 years. Dude, you will ever meet. When you know how people talk about like people being gangster and hard?
Yep.
This dude is on a whole nother level when it comes to that kind of street life. Like, he's the only person I ever met and know that's went down to Mexico and dealt with the cartels by himself and made it back by himself. This is how wild and crazy this dude is. And he was the first person that put me on Dogman encounters down in South America. Because he listened to my stories. He's like, when I'm down there again, man, I'm just going to ask some questions and find out if anybody's heard about this down there. I was like, all right, well, holler at me. And so he tells me he's going, and I don't hear from him for months, and I'm like, they done shot his behind. He did. They got him this time, And he just pops up in New Orleans, knocks on the door. I'm like, what's up, man? He's like, oh, man, I'm chilling. Come on in. He got stuff for my sons and gifts for my kids. And he's like, look, man, that werewolf, because he calls it a werewolf. He's like, that werewolf thing that you be talking about? I was like, yeah. He's like, man, that shit is all over down there. Like, what do you mean? He's like, it's all over. They have to kill him. Like, they have to shoot him because they're everywhere down there. I'm like, come on, dude, get the hell out of here. Then he started putting me on the phone with people down there. And then he started translating the conversation. He started telling me stories like, holy crap, this is insane. And so then I got location here, location there. And I was like, wait. This is steadily moving northward. And I'm like, whoa. And it's crossing the border and then it's coming on up. And I was like, well, it makes sense that an animal that huge, that strong and that fast, it should be able to migrate as far as it wants to migrate and go wherever it wants to go. Then I started getting stories from people that worked in Border Patrol in their encounters, which confirmed, okay, so there's definitely Dogman activity on the border. Then I started getting stories from landowners on the border. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's how I came to that conclusion, is because I started talking to people. And, there's people who are, quote unquote, researchers, right? Mm-hmm. And they'll go to somebody will say they had a Dogman encounter, they'll go to the location and then they'll look for prints and and that's great. That's amazing. That's awesome. But the truth of the matter is, if you want to find out what's going on with something like this, you need as many data points as possible. So you got to take in as many conversations as you can, filter out the BS from the truth, and then you literally have to start writing it down and plotting where it happens at. And then it reveals the picture of what's going on and how it's happening. And that's the one thing that I can say I have that data on. I'm not releasing it, but I have that data. And I got the goods when it comes to that. But there's no reason for me to release it at this point in time. The way I stand on Dogman is this now. I gave everybody Blue with Blue's Dogman encounter where the Dogman ran behind in his backyard. Mm-hmm. Everybody said it was a fraudulent lie and it was fake. Okay, it's fake. Then I gave you guys the coordinates for people who want to go to find Dogman. People have gone. 6 people have gone. And it's not ending well for them. And so when it comes to the topic now, I have an understanding of why people will never get the truth. Like when someone presents the truth, a lot of the audience prefers the lie, right?
Right.
And so when you look at the video on Fort Pierce, you see the hocks, you see the backwards legs, you see it moving, you see it stop and look. And I'm telling people, hey, he has photos. And I'm telling people I've seen the photos, and I actually think I posted one of the photos on Facebook with it zoomed in where you can see the freaking thing there. But the skepticism of the audience is always going to be the biggest problem.
Right.
So, and I've said this years ago when I got my very first piece of evidence of Dogman, real piece of evidence, which came from Roger and them. Their thing was, hey man, it makes no sense to be the guy who takes that kind of stuff public because it's too easy to discredit you. Hold on 1 second, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I got my batteries going there. It's too easy to discredit you, and all the drama that comes along with it is just going to end bad for you because someone's going to discredit you. They're going to discredit the evidence, and it's very easy to do. And I was like, you know what, you're right. And then it was like, if you put out the real stuff, the real deal stuff, then somebody's going to come and take it. And so now you got a target on your back because you're telling the truth, but you're standing in a gap for a group of people who, when the heat comes, they're not going to defend you. And I was like, you know what, you're right. And that's been the lesson that I've taught every witness. Like every witness, the conversation I have is those with evidence that say you want to put it out. I just tell them, listen, you put the evidence out, but don't have this expectation that people are going to be accepting of your evidence and accepting of your encounter. They're going to be skeptical. They're going to be critical. And then some of them are going to be apathetic. Some people are not going to really care. And I said, you're going to get a lot of attention for a short period of time, and then they're going to move on to the next thing. And they're going to leave you holding the baggage that comes along with it, which is the baggage is the knock on your door, people wanting to take what you have. You're going to be held to holding that baggage. They're going to forget about what happened with you. And Blue was a perfect example. And I told Blue before, I said, Blue, right now you got all these people contacting you, telling you who you need to interview with, blah, 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 who you need to talk to. I said, look, pimpin', you do what you want to do. I'm just going to give you the rules and tell you what's up. I told him, I said, listen, everybody going to hit you up. They're going to want to ask you questions. I said, charge them. I said, because at the end of the day, you got about 2 weeks of people's attention, and then they're going to turn their attention away from you, and they're going to leave you holding the baggage. And after those 2 weeks, everything is going to be fake. And so I think I talked to him like on a Monday or a Tuesday. My private investigator found him. And then I didn't bother him for a couple of days. And about 3 days later, he was like, dude, I don't know who you are, but it's almost like you just prophesied the future. He said, I got all these people telling me who I need to talk to. They're telling me this person's a liar, this person's the best, this. And he said, I told them, pay me just to see what they will do, but nobody wants to pay me. I said, okay. I said, well, what you want to do? I said, because if I'm you, I'm taking my evidence to TV.
Right.
I'm not screwing with YouTube. I'm not screwing no podcast. I said, go on TV with your evidence, sell it to the TV channel, the TV stations, and then go talk to the people and raise your price. And he was like, man, you a G for that. I said, I'm just telling you, sell it to TV. You're going to get money because they have budgets for this. And so he sold all this stuff to the TV stations and did interviews and did this and did that. And just as I told him, all the attention went away from him when the next little dog man, it was like some kind of dog man sitting in a tree.
Yep.
Like sitting in, and you couldn't even see what the hell that was. Like like it was like, that's a dog man. I'm like, I don't know what the hell that is, right? You couldn't really tell. So, but all the attention shifted and everybody left him alone and went to the next thing. And I told him, I said, see, you gotta understand, you're gonna be used. I said, that's why I don't really do interviews with my witnesses in that manner where it's like, oh, I'm gonna have you on an interview and we're gonna talk blah, 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 blah. I tell them, look, I'll buy the rights to your story from you. We'll do fair compensation where, I pay you to have the rights to the story. That way you get something out of it. I'm going to go tell your story. Now, if you want to later on, after I built it up, if you want to go public and tell it, you have me to verify and vouch that your story is real because you got my credibility. But then once they see, and a lot of those people seeing what happened to me with their story that they know is true, they're reading the comments and seeing what's happening. They're like, man, these people crazy. I'm like, yeah. And they're very appreciative of the way I handle it. So it's a very, very strange field when you start talking about Dogman and how witnesses are actually treated.
Yeah.
You know, you go in some of those Facebook groups and there's people who have a difference of opinion as between there being a physical flesh and blood Dogman and the actual spiritual entity pretending to be Dogman. I've seen people get kicked out of the group because they didn't believe that it was always a flesh and blood entity. Also, by the way, if any of the moderators of the groups are listening, like, I don't know if y'all thought y'all kicked me out, but I got multiple accounts in y'all groups. I see everything that go on. That's just a warning to y'all so y'all can calm down. We got a lot of accounts, a whole lot of accounts in everybody's group. So, and it's kind of crazy how that goes. But anyway, I'm rambling.
Right.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine, man. Like I said, this is what I wanted to have. And I want to publicly right now apologize because I did, and you asked me, and I said to somebody, because I heard that Blue's encounter was fake, someone said that to me, that someone reputable had said they sent the video out and it was a hoax. And straight up, I apologize right now because it is not a hoax. It's a real Dogman. You can see it. So I'm sorry, DW. I hope you accept my apology. Obviously, you did because you and I are chatting now. So just I wanted to make it public that I was wrong. I heard wrong information and shared wrong information before even checking and asking you.
No, it's all good. I'm not even tripping on none of that. Like, like I told you before, I really don't care if people believe it or not. But here's what I know. And so if someone says that they took the video and they sent it out and it's a hoax, here's what I know to be true. I know that 2 Travel Channel TV shows have verified that the videos are real. I know that the, what do you call those? The Fishing and Game or Wildlife and Fisheries Department in Florida have verified that the video and the photos that nobody else has seen are real. And that they went to the location and investigated the location and came back and said, this is some kind of unknown primate animal that we don't know nothing about, but yeah, it's definitely something there. So whoever the other professional person is that says they sent the video out, that's cool. Do it. Do what you do. But at the end of the day, if that person hasn't talked to the witness, that person hasn't been involved in the situation, they took a video and sent it out. This is where our community has to mature and grow up. If someone tells me, let's say my arch enemy, Vic Cundum. So let's say Vic Cundum put a piece of information out, right? And he puts out a video. And then somebody says, well, such and such looked at Vic's video and they tried to authenticate it and said it's a fraud. My first question would be, well, who did they send the video to? Not because I don't want to discredit that man in that manner, because the evidence is bigger than my relationship or my beef with him. The evidence is what people are after. So the first thing you want to do is you want to really get to the bottom of what the true deal is, irregardless of who the person is or the other personality is. The whole purpose of being in the field of Dogman is to freaking find Dogman. Right. So the audience has to be mature enough to say, well, blah, blah, blah. Let's say it was, I don't know, somebody else in the industry. Let's say it's Jody Cook. He's in the industry. So let's say Jody Cook said, I sent it off to somebody else and they verified it and they said it wasn't real. The audience has to be, the people have to be mature enough to say, well, who did you send it to? We want to hear from that person what their opinion of it was. It can't be word of mouth. It has to be, well, who was it sent to? Like I'm telling you, the caught on film on a Travel Channel, and then I can't remember the name of the other TV show. Both of them analyzed this man's footage.
Right.
right? On top of that, his footage was a Facebook live stream. So it wasn't like he pre-recorded the live stream and set it up. It's like you walking out your front door, and it's happened plenty of times. People on Facebook Live and they talking, somebody gets shot on Facebook Live, right? It's happened plenty of times.
Yeah.
So Facebook Live, it's not like it's a pre-recorded deal. So how do you fake Facebook Live?
Right, and I don't think a lot of people realize that that was a live Facebook, so right there's some more information out for and that's another reason why, excuse me, I've looked up to you and try to model the way my channel goes, is because not only are you're looking for what everybody else is looking for, is the truth. We don't know if they are full flesh and blood, if they're spiritual. We have no idea what exactly they are. All we hear is word of mouth until we have one in front of us to figure out what they are. That's one huge reason why I really look up to you. The other reason is you don't just concentrate on Dogman. You have a lot of different outlets. Like I think one of your stories on your channel is the Oil Man. You have paranormal stuff on there. You're a man of many faucets, and that's what I like about you so much. And another thing that you just said is your arch nemesis, you're going to actually not stick up for, but you're going to want to see, well, is this true or not? You're not going to go, well, it's fake just because you're against him. No, you're going to see, well, is it fake because it got sent to this person, or is it real? And that shows just the type of person you are, which is a good friggin' guy. So.
And at the end of the day, I want the truth.
Right.
So and this is where the problem comes in. Irregardless of differences in personalities, right? What you have to get to is bring something to the table that could be the answer that we're looking for. I'm not going to damage that. I'm not going to say, oh, that's a bunch of bull crap. You know what I'm saying? Like real evidence, not like some random dude talking about their encounter. I'm talking about real evidence, real video evidence, real photographic evidence. I'm not finna slam that. If I do try and do something, I'm going to take it. I'm going to have it audited. I'm going to have it reviewed, blah, 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 blah. And then I put out the findings. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And say, okay, well, here's what we found from blah, 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 blah's video. And here's what we believe it to be. But at the end, there has to be some level of integrity in the game to where you're not trying to destroy the underlining important nature of why people are doing it. And that's another huge reason why I don't just focus on like Dogman.
Right. Because
honestly, for anybody who's on YouTube that's in a Dogman is a monetization trap. Like if you do Dogman, you'll get a lot of views, right? But the minute you turn your attention from that, your revenue is going to drop because people don't want to hear anything else but Dogman. So I discovered that real early. So I don't let myself get caught into the Dogman trap, which is all I can do is talk about Dogman because I'm addicted to the attention that comes from people's what's the best word? Unhealthy obsession with the topic.
Yep.
Right. So I don't do that. So there's a lot. I told people before, there's a hell of a lot more scary stuff than Dogman running around on this planet.
Right on.
And those things need to be addressed as well.
Yeah. DW, we're coming up on time. I want everyone to know that you guys should go. If you're not, and if you don't and haven't checked out his channel, you guys are missing out on a lot. I'm going to give you a plug right now. Plug all your outlets, please, right now.
Facebook at DarkH201. Twitter is the same thing. YouTube.waters. And if you just want to hear some of the best true horror stories, go to iam.waters.com and become a member, and you will get access to some of the best 100% verified stuff. And before we go, let me explain to people what verified means, because people don't understand it. So 90% of your Dogman encounters that people have are kind of one and done. Like, oh, I saw it on the side of the road, or, you know, I just kind of bumped into it, or I was hunting and it would happen to be in the area that I was in. Those encounters are extremely hard to verify because there's no follow-up to them, right? My focus really is on, overall focus is on the reoccurring encounters, because those are the ones where I gather all the information. So you'll find albums that are on my website that are Dogman albums, but they're divided into stories, but majority of the stories are actually from one person. Like one of the guys I got a call when we hang up, I did the interview with Sean Graham, my talk show host, did an interview with him called Dogman and the Handlers. He's still having Dogman activity. It's been 5 years. Still, like his dog, which is like his dog, Jackson, which was like his son, he just found his dog dead just recently. And I had to follow up with him and talk to him, but I don't want to go too deep into it. But that's 5 years of these things being back and forth on his property. Not always there, but they definitely come across his property during certain times of the year, and he has problems with them. So just so you guys understand as an audience, the one-hitter quitter stories and encounters are great, but you gather the information from the people who have repeat and consistent encounters with these creatures, and that's where you learn their real nature. That's when I learned how they terrorize people, how they terrorize their animals, how they bait you to come out of your house at night. If you're not smart, they'll get you to come out of the house, and you're trying to figure out what person is outside doing something, but it's actually them. Stuff that most people don't really even have a concept or clue that Dogman does. So IamDarkWaters.com, you're going to get that kind of information there, a bunch of horror stories. And then if you use my search bar and really search there, you'll find all kinds of other stuff. Articles on genetic modification that support some of the stuff out of the stories out of China, like all kind of stuff. The people who really research what I say completely end up being freaked out. The last guy who really, he called me, he said, hey man, I'm going to do a deep dive into all the stuff you say in your stories. He called me a month later. He says, man, I don't know what to do. I think I want to move. I was like, well, where are you going to move to? He said, I don't know. I think I want to go to Mars, because I've been researching the stuff you're saying, and I've been finding it. And I found what happened in Venezuela. I found what happened. I said, exactly. I said, people just don't want to look. I said, but if you look, you're going to find the evidence of what I talked about. So you'll be amazed at what you'll find at that website.
Awesome. DW, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Nope, I appreciate you having me on. And anytime you need me back, let me know, brother. I'll be here.
All right. Have a great night.
All right. Good night.
And there you have it, folks. I really do. I feel blessed having him as a friend, having him as a confidant. Anytime I have a question or a need to vent, talk, anything, he is always there. He has never left me hanging. And he is just a great person, on top of being an amazing storyteller. I am not a good storyteller. I am a fairly decent researcher, but James is one hell of a storyteller. He can and his research abilities is just as good as his storytelling abilities. So with that, thank you for supporting the channel. It is your support that keeps this channel growing and going, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories, judgment-free. Everyone, keep an eye on your children, your pets, your family, and friends. These creatures are real. They're dangerous. They're out there. Share this information with those you love and care about. It may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless.